So do you think that essentially we wanted this war to happen?
Yes, 1000%.
We are talking about Trump's, Tariffs, Ukraine, NATO, Israel, Gaza, real topics, real opinions.
We're all business people. You can't give me a $200,000 a year salary and 8 years later, I'm worth $75 million.
You're insider trading. Something was happening, right? 1 + 1 is not equal 2.
If we do wash $1 trillion off the board, it'll be well worth all the bullshit. That is not the United States of America. I want to be paying my tax monies for.
Today is something different. We got Jake Pastana, my man. He's a regional manager and leader in a nationwide solar company. Then we got my man Dan Fulkerson, also known as the Bulldog lawyer. He does a lot for the San Diego community.
The CIA wants World War III?
No, the CIA wants conflict because that's how the CIA makes money.
Welcome to the Market Exchanges podcast, where real conversation happen. No filters, no script, just straight talk. Let's get started. You guys ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. So first of all, right, D.O.G.E. Elon Musk is leading this movement. Combination of assets is trying to cut up a lot of things. D.O.G.E., what's your stand on the government of efficiency led by Elon Musk? Is it a smart move or a conflict of interest? Jack, let's start with you.
I think you hit it on the head right at the end, right? I feel like there's certain things he can look into, cut, but he received, I don't know how many billions. I think it's like $35 billion in government contracts, which like he's doing a lot of cutting, looking at a lot of different departments, Federal Protection Bureau, things like that. But he hasn't looked at any of his. I hear he might, but again, it's a huge conflict of interest. Like, I don't know who like crowned Elon Musk as like infallible almost, because my biggest thing with D.O.G.E. is that there's not much regulation. Like, there's no regulation. He thinks posting on Twitter or X like that, today we cut this, today we cut that, he thinks that's like transparency, right? But again, there's no one overlooking him. So I think it's a huge conflict of interest, honestly, because he's getting paid by the federal government.
Gotcha. Dan, what's your thought on that?
I agree with both. I think it's a conflict of interest. I think I have issues with how they're going about it, but I also think it's a great idea. And I think if you look at the last 20 years, this is not anything new. The Clinton administration rolled this very similar thing out. Obama rolled a very similar thing out. They didn't follow through on it the way that it's being followed through on, but this is something that is a repeated concept of, hey, we have mass federal government waste. I think all three of us can sit here and go, doesn't matter what you believe in, you believe that. Like,
Absolutely.
There's a lot of
100%.
waste going on. So as a taxpayer, as someone who works every single day for what I have, I want to know that my money is going to good, positive things that are actually important in our lives, all of our lives, right? And I think that the American people have lost faith that that's what's happening, right? And I'd be way better paying that big tax bill every single year if I was like, hey, I know when I send this check in that I'm going to get a positive benefit out of it. And I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like that money would be better off used in my hands, and I would do better things for society, for my community, for my businesses, and it would be a more positive impact than what the government's using it for. So I am a full proponent of them auditing the government. I actually think it should be a normal, regular thing. But with that said, I think that the way they rolled it out is not the way that I would have done it. I think that the first thing they should have done is come and been like, hey, this is going to be transparent. And in the interest of transparency, here's all the money that I'm getting from the government. Here's my contracts with the government. Here's exactly what my interest is. Because I think when you break it down, there's certain parts of it that are less suspicious in the conflict scheme than others, right? Like, yes, he's getting 35 billion or whatever the number is, but the government literally has come out under the Biden administration and is like, hey, us using SpaceX instead of NASA is saving the taxpayers billions of dollars. So that to me is something that no one should be like, well, Elon's getting money from the government. Elon's doing us all a favor at a point. And before this election and before we've seen the last 45 days roll out, most people on both sides of the aisle were looking at Elon like, bro, you're built different. Like the way that you roll, the businesses you built, how you've been able to build them and doing things that no one thought was ever possible. Everyone was admiring Elon. But I think the way that it's rolled out has made people suspicious, and rightfully so. And for years, I've been a little suspicious of Elon because I think you always have to worry about the guy that rides in on the white horse, acting like he's going to save everyone. To me, that's the guy that you should worry about. I worry about the Trojan horse. I worry about, is his interests really for the people, or are there more suspicious things going on? And those are things that I think everyone should ask questions about. But when you talk about just Doge itself, I am fully supportive, and I would love them to tear through every budget in the federal government. And I don't care if it's an 18-year-old or an 89-year-old doing it. Cut the fat, cut the waste, because our money is not being spent the way that it should be, in my opinion.
I'd have to look. So this is the thing. I fully agree with that. Is there too much bureaucracy? Is there too much like waste and spending? 100%. I think everyone agrees on that. But exactly like he said, it's the way it's being done, right? Like they're freezing all money in whole agencies. We're all business owners here, right? Right. We work with the same company. The owners of our company, if there's some waste, they wouldn't say, "Hey, everyone, stop! Do not sell one more account. We're gonna freeze everything because we need to find where this waste is." No, you would only do that if you want to kill it. If you want to kill your business, if you want to make your business drown. And that's what I feel is happening with Elon Musk, right? He just there's not enough transparency, but I absolutely want my taxpayer dollars to go to good causes, what I feel are good. And just other things that I feel like he's firing a lot of people, you know what I mean? Indiscriminately. And then they're rehiring people because they shouldn't have fired them, right? Like there's like 300 nuclear watchdogs that they fired them, and then they realized like, oh, these people know specialized things that we can't just hire someone to do. So then they tried to rehire them all, and we probably all saw the articles, and they couldn't get a hold of a lot of them because they didn't have their company email, X, Y, and Z. So then they just fired 6,000 people from the USDA, rehired all of them, right? So like it's the way it's happening. You know, everyone's seen him with the chainsaw. Like literally, I feel like he's just taking a chainsaw. And that's my biggest issue with it, is that the way it's being done, right? The way it's being done, there's not enough transparency. There's not enough honesty. And it's just hard for me, you know, like Elon Musk, you know, the cuts that they're talking about. I actually sat with the lady yesterday. You know, obviously we do solar, and she works for the Department of Defense. And then I didn't know that until I was talking with her. And I'm like, "Hey, how's your week?" And she's just like, "It's been really rough." I'm like, "Oh, like, what do you do?" She told me she worked for the Department of Defense. And she's like, "We're just getting ready. Like, they already told us it's coming down the pipe." This lady's worked there for 22 years. She's not like someone new, right? So, you know,
we're getting ready
to be fired, right? Like getting ready for the cuts, because they don't know who's being cut. They don't know, like they're saying a lot of probationary workers. Well, yes, that's happening. But yeah, like these are people's livelihoods, right? That are just getting cut. And I feel like the narrative right now is that all federal workers are just lazy and don't do their job, right? Is there the bottom percent of people that in every business? Of course. But I feel like they're just firing so many people, and it's hurting so many Americans. And yeah, like you said, I'm in a way suspicious of Elon Musk, right? Like he didn't become the richest man in the world by being known to be, you know, like a good boss, right? Or like he tried to fire people in his company for trying to unionize, right? So again, I just don't feel like he's the man. Is he an absolute genius? 100%. He freaking SpaceX. Like the first time I saw a rocket land itself, I thought it was fake. I was like, that's not a real video, right? He's a genius. Absolutely. Tesla's incredible cars. He made PayPal, right? Like he is a genius. But again, I don't feel like he is the one. Just because he is this genius that made these successful businesses, the U.S. government is not a business, right? It's different.
What's your take on it?
My take on it is I don't have nearly the issue with the cuts because I think that they're necessary. We're running a multi-trillion-dollar deficit. You can't sustain that. It was only like 10 years ago where we were running a $400 billion deficit and it was an issue. Now we're talking T's, right? And I don't think people understand the difference between a million and a billion. And I definitely don't think people understand the difference between a billion and a trillion. And it's unsustainable. It is a house of cards. So you have to make drastic actions. I do agree that you have to do it strategically. And if you run in too fast and too hot, you will cut things that you shouldn't cut, and you will break things that you don't realize that you're breaking that cause bigger issues. And I think that they've started to see that. And I think they realize they went too hot and heavy early on and they're having to rehire some people. But do I think that ultimately what is happening needs to happen, taking Elon out of it, whether it's Vivek, Elon, or whoever is doing it? Yes, because I think that you need some radical changes or you will see dark times in the future. Because once the house of cards collapses, once we're not the world currency because we've run the dollar into the ground, once we can't reprint our own money to get ourselves out of debt, you see times that you've never seen in our lifetime, that our parents have never seen in their lifetimes in this country. And that scares me to death. So yes, I think you have to make drastic cuts. And I think unfortunately the reality is with drastic change, there will be societal friction. We as human beings like status quo. It makes us feel good. We like the normalcy. We like the routine. When you switch things up massively, everyone's insecure. Markets are not stable because markets don't like insecurity. Households aren't stable. People at the D.O.G.E are worried about losing their jobs. That's what we're living through. But that's what I want. That's what I asked for. I want that because I just don't think that you can keep going down this same road the way that we have been without drastic change. Now, to scrutinize how they're doing it is one thing, but you also have to be able to go, hey, let's look at some of the things that they're finding and also shine a light on that and go, how the hell was that even going on, right? So I think we have to be able to balance that and go, these are the problems that I have with how they're rolling it out. Do I like Elon standing over Trump in the Oval Office with his kid picking his nose? Absolutely not. I think it's a terrible look. Do I like Trump and Elon standing on TV selling Teslas? Absolutely not. This is not what we're here for, folks. Like, stop selling cars, get to work. But do I also think that we need to shine a light on the things that they are finding? Absolutely. I would not have started with USAID. Why? Because I think there's a conflict there with Elon. And I think it's an easy way for people to go, hey, you went after USAID because USAID was coming after you. So I wouldn't have started there. The reason why I wouldn't is because the things that they found in USAID are fucking alarming, right? And if you would have done that 3 or 4th down the road, I don't think it would have gotten the blowback as it did. And so I wouldn't have gone at that first. But USAID, we've talked about Operation Mockingbird, right? Yeah. It's something that I've always said didn't stop in the 70s when the CIA came out and said, got us. Yep, sure enough, we are doing this. It's only grown and evolved. And USAID money is being used as a propaganda tool, not just in foreign matters, but domestically. And you cannot have taxpayer money being funneled through NGOs by the CIA and other ABC entities to be able to propagandize your own population. That should be a concern for everyone. That is not the United States of America, at least not the United States of America that I want to live in and not what I want to be paying my tax monies for. I don't want USAID to be helping harvesting poppy fields in Afghanistan. Like, no, that's just not okay with me. I'm not as worried about gay Sesame Street as I am with what they're doing for basically manipulation of mass populations with that money. That bothers me a lot. And so I think that we all have to be able to have an open conversation and go, hey, how you're doing it, there needs to be more transparency. You need to switch it up. Maybe Elon's not the best face for it, but we also all have to have a conversation about what they're finding and go, this can't happen again. Yeah. Like, we need to have more control systems in place so we don't have this kind of waste. Because until the United States, until you have situations like in Maui where those are being jumped on right away, or the fires up in LA, or the hurricane in North Carolina, until you can handle your own population base, don't be giving all away our money to all these bullshit causes. Help the United States of America. Help the people that are here with the money that we're paying into taxes. Once you handle that, I'll shut the fuck up. But until you're doing that, you're going to hear from me because I just disagree with it.
Jack?
I agree with a lot of what he said, right? Obviously, like there's money in USAID that was being wasted. So the only issue, like, again, my issue with it is that can we have a discussion or even an argument about what the money was going to? 100%. Right now, again, I'm not really versed in like the CIA and FBI programs, but
that's my shit.
Yeah,
that's like what I like keeps me up at
okay,
night.
dope. Yeah, so I'm not versed in that, right? You could lead me down that rabbit hole. But you know, it's like I've heard things like drag shows in I forgot what country, right? Costa Rica or something. Like money was going to that, right? Like the thing about it is that money was bipartisanly given to that corporation. You know what I mean? So for able to Trump, which is executive power, to be able to just stop that, like he's not a king, right? He's not a king. There's 3 branches of government and they all supposed to have equal power. So he's taking the power of the purse and saying, nah, it's okay. I'm gonna sign that way. So that's my biggest issue with it is that should it be looked at? Should it be scrutinized? Should money be going there? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just say I don't like it and sign a piece of paper and say that's no longer, like, we're freezing it. That's not a law. Like that's why he's getting, there's so much pushback through federal judges are like, you can't do that, right? You literally can't do that, right? So again, I agree with a lot of it. Like I don't think they should be using the money to propagandize, you know, different populations, our own population. And I feel like USAID, like Elon is more famous. He said, the whole apple is worms or something, right? It's like, it's not just a rotten in the core. It's like the whole apple is worms or something like that. Like there is good things that came out of there, right? They're feeding tens of thousands of starving women and children. And there's warehouses of food that are pre-digested food, right? Because some of these kids in different countries, their stomachs can't even handle like normal food. So this food is pre-digested. It's not normal food. And when they stopped all the money, all that stopped, right? And guess who came in on the white horse to save it? China. China comes in, they're like, sick. We'll feed the kids. We'll do this. We'll do that, right? So again, and I feel like it puts our national security at risk. And the reason I say that is that if your mom was saved from starvation because of USAID in the US, essentially, that's how you look at it, from the United States, and your sister was going to starve to death, and then the US is feeding you. And then a group, right? A different group comes and try to radicalize you. You're a lot less likely to do that because you're like, dude, the US literally saved my family's life, right? Now, take the US out of that, and now you're more likely to be radicalized against the US because you're like, they've never helped me, right? So I feel like it builds a lot of instability because there was a lot of good that was done all across the world with that. And now since we're pulling out of that, other bad actors or people that wouldn't be our friends are going to come in, and then they're going to yell propaganda and, you know, at them, saying like, yeah, the US did this, the US did that, right? So I feel like it actually hurts our interests abroad.
Done.
I think one of the bigger problems in the United States is that we've been so concerned about external issues and not as concerned about internal issues. And I am sick of watching the United States play world policeman. And I'm sick of watching the United States play world babysitter. And don't get me wrong, you know how much I do. Like I am like a give back person. Like every dollar that comes into my office, there's part of it goes into a fund and we give it back to the community. I mean, we do hundreds of thousands of dollars of community donations. I'm a big believer in that in life. But do I think that we get involved in other countries' bullshit way too much? Yes. Do I think that we try to play savior with ulterior motives often? Yes. And until we handle our own internal stuff here, I don't mind seeing a freeze on funds like that for a time being until we can get our own house in order, until we can budget the way that a business is supposed to budget and not a way a government's supposed to budget, which is just printing money out of thin air. Until we can do those things, I don't mind a freeze in those things. And I also do understand exactly what you're saying, that there is a consequence to those decisions and actions, but I'm okay with that consequence. So that's kind of where I'm at on Doge. I also have a hard time with getting fully behind it if the Congress and the Senate aren't going to also make drastic steps in our spending. It's very hard for me to understand how we can fully push Doge and audit the government and cut the fat. And then you're going to go in there and say, hey, we're going to try to balance the budget, but we're not going to save any money on spending. And we're going to try to save $1 trillion over the next 10 years. No, we don't got 10 years. I want to save $1 trillion this year. You're going to have to make some drastic cuts. And if you're not willing to do it, then you don't believe in this government audit. You're not really behind it. So I think the Republicans have done themselves a huge disservice over the last month with this spending bill by not going in there and showing that they were serious and cutting spending and really making an active effort to show, hey, we're going to do it differently this time. The other part about those bills, and I think it's just a fundamental issue that we have in this country, is you're right. Those bills were congressionally passed. But the problem is those bills roll out the night before they're voted on. They're 8,000 pages long. No one can read them. No one knows what the fuck's inside of it. You're voting on bullshit because you have no idea. It's not even written by the congressmen or the senators. It's written by their staff members. And guess what? There's a ton of fat in every single one of them, and everyone's getting rich off of them. And if you don't realize that these public servants that go in making $200,000 a year and come out making $58 million aren't public servants, and that's both sides. That is an equal problem on both sides. If you don't realize that a lot of the money that's stuffed into those bills is flowing back into the pockets, just do the math. We're all business people. You can't give me a $200,000 a year salary and 8 years later, I'm worth $75 million. Nah, I was stealing some shit because that's the only way that it works, right? And so I just think that we all need to be able to have conversations like this to be able to get to a place of common sense. And what's really troubling for me right now is there's so much hate and it's so toxic that you can't even have a conversation, right? Like, that's why I love that you invited us to do this, because this is how we can make progress. This is how we can get shit done, is by having a conversation. But going, Elon's a Nazi when he's obviously not, and going, you know, the Democrats are all libtards, and like, what are we doing? That's not going to get any of us anywhere. It's stupid. And so I just appreciate that we can have a format like this and we can have a conversation. And I hope more people start conversating and having discussions. Even if you disagree, you can do it in a respectful, kind manner with love and walk away from it with different perspective. Yeah. That's what we need.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. 100%. I mean, and like we're human beings, right? We're emotional creatures.
For sure.
And and just again, the way it's done is it's my side of the aisle, or whatever you want to call it. We're just so much against it because the way it's done and the lack of transparency. You know, I was doing like some reading on Doge, and I went on the Doge. So there's actually a Doge website, obviously. And you can go on there and see how much they've quote unquote saved. And me, I'm like, I'm all about like facts. I'm like, okay, show me the numbers, show me the facts, right? If it is, it is. Then if it's not, it's not, right? And so they say that estimated savings, $115 billion. And there's something called a receipt wall. And they put the receipts of the things they've cut, right? So that receipt wall equals $16 billion. But he says that they've saved $115 billion. And the biggest, one of the worst things about it is in this receipt wall, there is one thing from ICE, right? Immigration Enforcement Agency, that they said that they've cut whatever program on ICE that saved them $8 billion, but it was a clerical error and it was actually $8 million, right? So they've saved about $17 billion actual receipts. Like, show me the receipts. But they're saying $115 billion. And I feel like they told the American people, and especially, you know, the Republicans, hey, we're going to cut, we're going to do this. And if you look at it at its face value, then it's like, oh man, they've saved $115 billion. That's crazy. That's amazing, right? 1/10 of a trillion or whatever. It's nowhere near that. And again, if it is, like, just show me, like show us, right? Show us. And I have no problem with auditing the government. We all know, like what you just said was perfect. You make $200,000 a year and then you're worth 50, 60, 70 million later, 8 years later. Yeah, something happened. You're insider trading. Something was happening, right? 1 + 1 is not equal 2 in that scenario.
No, it equals 78 million.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But again, it's just, and it's like that division and that anger and that hate. And this just sticks, like, sticks us a knife into the heart of everyone that didn't vote for him. Like straight up, it's just like, exactly. Like, because again, we are all business people. If you tell an employee to do something and they're like, yeah, I did it. They're like, okay, cool. Like, no, don't worry. I did it. Don't worry. That's not going to be okay.
I think that in this conversation in general, with everything we're going to talk about, I think we have to keep, what day is it today? It's the March 15th. We are less than 2 months in. We're not even 60 days into this, folks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that perspective has to be kept.
Yeah.
So when people talk about like egg prices and shit, and like we're less than 2 months into this thing. We have to keep that in perspective, right? So maybe it's 17 million, maybe it's 150. I haven't looked at the receipt wall. All I know is that number is going to keep going up, right? They haven't gotten to the one that I want them to get to, which is the D.O.G.E. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the D.O.G.E. because the D.O.G.E. comes out every single year and goes, hey, guess what, guys? We failed another audit. We don't know where $2 trillion went. Not billion, trillion. Everyone forgets that the day before 9/11, Rumsfeld came out and said, hey, by the way, boys, we don't know where $3.2 trillion went. We have no idea. We failed an audit, $3.2 trillion. People don't register those numbers, right? You have no idea what that is. We have a $30 trillion deficit. That's a tenth of our deficit in that one audit that they failed. So I am very excited to get to those places. And if we come out 2 years from now, because I think DOGE has a date of July 26 is where it's supposed to be done. That's when they want to be done with all these audits. If we get to that date and we've only captured $100 billion in its chaos, you guys, everyone has every right to look at it and go, this was a failure. This was silly. This was exactly what they did in the Clinton administration, Obama administration, saying you're going to do all this shit, but it all stays the same and nothing ever changes. And everyone has a right to say it. But I do think that we should see it out, because if we do wash $1 trillion off the board, it'll be well worth all the bullshit. And being only 55 days in, I don't think that we have the ability on either side to judge that yet.
I agree. So both of the three of us, I guess, agree that the government is badly managed, right?
The worst. It's the worst business on earth.
Right. So what would you say is DOGE doing right so far, right? On your side, for example, what would you say is DOGE doing right in cutting some type of expense or waste of expense, if any? If you realize any of those have been actually pretty good, what would you say is that type of expense that has been good? Or what would you start eventually?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, is cutting government waste good? 100%. I don't have receipts. No one has receipts. No one has receipts. Like Elon, he's not technically a branch of the, like, it's not a government office. So he answers to no one. He answers to himself. So or I guess Trump. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't say what they did here was good, what they did here is good, because I have no receipts.
Gotcha.
I just see that they're firing a lot of people. Do I know? Did I look at these people's like work history and if they got negative points or positive points? I did. Like a judge in New Mexico or something, someone was just fired and they followed a lawsuit, right? And they literally 3 months ago got marks for above and beyond, like positive marks in their job, and they got let go because they were within 2 years. And the reason they were let go is job performance, right? So again, like, I haven't seen, again, I agree, cutting is going to be a good thing, but I haven't seen the receipts on like, hey, this is why we're doing this is why we're doing that. There's no receipts. So you can't say if it's good or bad, right? And to your point, it's still really early, but I don't have the receipts. Like, show me some receipts. So show the American people the receipts, right? And again, I'll also say that, like, we're talking about the strongest country on planet Earth, right? Like, I feel like there's this narrative that like the US is just completely like in shambles. Like, I'm pretty sure all of us did pretty damn good last year. You know what I mean? So I feel like the narrative and what's actually living out is two different things. Did inflation go crazy? 100%. It went crazy across the whole planet, right? It wasn't a Biden thing. Because it was a Biden thing, only the US would have been in shambles. No, every country suffered crazy, crippling inflation, and we actually bounced back the fastest, right? So again, I can't say what Doge is doing is good or bad because I don't. There's no receipts, and no one has receipts. And Elon is actually starting to delete things from this receipt wall. He's starting to delete things off of it, right? Because there's things that he's saying he cut, and then it was actually they're like, oh well, that was actually cut last fall during the Biden administration, right? So again, it gets sticky, right? But I do think things should be cut, and I want them to be cut, and I want our country to get out of debt. $30 trillion, $35 trillion or something crazy. That's bananas. That's a lot of money, right? But I mean, I don't think they're really serious about it because, I mean, it might be another topic, but they're talking about $4.6 trillion in tax cuts, right? So $35 trillion debt, let's add $4.6 trillion to that in tax cuts, right? So they're gonna get rid of $1 trillion or whatever they're gonna say, and then they're gonna add 4 to it. That makes no sense. Like if we're really talking about government efficiency, like you have to look at everything. And the tax cuts again, and the tax cuts benefit me like a lot. You know what I mean? And they benefit everyone. Like realistically, like I think 3/4 of the country would get a tax cut. Obviously, the people making more money would get a little bit more, but that's not the way to do it.
What's your take on that?
Taxation is theft. That's my take on it all the way around. I don't understand how anyone votes against a tax cut.
On the inflation side, you know, he mentioned, for example, like the inflation was like, yeah, it was terrible, but we all did good. Would you say that we all bounced back completely fine? That's a good, or is like the narrative of a country like United States that need to go inflation? What do you think about that?
I think that the human nature of things is to think that everything's going to always be good and not to realize that things can get bad quickly and not to realize that everything is a cycle, right? Cycles throughout history are proven. Like it's just the way that it is. And so just because the United States is the world power and the most powerful country in the world doesn't mean that's what it'll be in 50 years. Things change quickly, right? And I would like that to remain the same. I think that for all of our standard of living, for all of our families, like that's in the best interest of our children, right? And I worry that if we don't make radical changes to how we spend and to the way that this country runs, that will not be the case for long. And that's why I come from a place of, hey, if this is a business, okay, we're all businessmen.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we look at it and we're like, oh shit, we're upside down $1 million. You're firing people that are good. It's the reality of it, right? You're going up to people that are performing individuals, but you're going, I'm sorry. My budget does not allow me to have you on board anymore. I have to make really difficult decisions to balance a budget. It's the same with the household, right? I'm sorry. I want my son to play baseball. We don't have the money this year. We got to balance our budget, right? So you're making very difficult decisions, and people that might be doing great at their jobs and performing are going to lose their jobs because we are running a bankrupt business. And in order to get it to a place where it's healthy again, you have to make drastic changes. Now, you may end up proving right that they don't really mean it, right? And then I'll be the first one that sits here and says they were full of shit and they were frauds. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt while they're doing it, taking away the conflict of interest, taking away how they're going it. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they really do want to save this country $1 trillion and they really do want to help balance the budget, because I do think that there's enough alarms ringing going, hey, we can't keep going down this road and adding to that debt. Part of those tax cuts, part of the contingency was it has to be a balanced budget before those tax cuts would go into place, right? So if you can get to a place where you have a balanced budget, and then if those tax cuts are put in place, we're going to have to see how they affect everything, right? But I don't think that they're going to plan on cutting that from the taxes until we have a balanced budget. Just like Trump came out and said, hey, I'd love to cut taxes on everyone making under $150,000 a year. And now it's all these, news posts on Instagram and everyone's saying everyone's going to under 150 grand a year is not going to pay taxes. He specifically said once we have a balanced budget. Whether we get there or not is another conversation, right? But I am a believer that drastic changes need to be made, and drastic change is hard for people. And you're cutting money from institutions that have always had their, their mouth on the government teat, for lack of a better way to say it, and you are going to hear a lot of loud outbursts. So when you're funding most of the news organizations through the government and through USAID, and you cut that funding, guess what? You're going to get a lot of bad publicity and a lot of bad media because they lost a ton of money. When you're cutting money to NGOs that senators and Congress people and their family members are benefiting from, you're going to get a lot of outrage on both sides. And I think that you're seeing that. But I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to watch closely. And if it turns out to be a fraudulent, bullshit, money-grabbing scheme, I will be the first one to say it. But I don't think you can make that judgment 55 days in.
Yep. I agree. The only pushback I'll give to you, and maybe you can explain more. So taxation. The United States makes money. That's the only way it makes money. It makes money through personal income tax, business tax, corporate tax. Those are the three largest ways the U.S. makes money.
But when did taxation start?
I don't know when it started.
1917. So we ran as a country for over 100 years with zero taxes. We started it going into World War I because we said, hey, we need to be able to fund this war. This is going to be a temporary thing. Don't worry, it's temporary. This is your civic duty to pay it. And guess what? Anything that the government does doesn't fucking go away. It just magnifies and gets bigger. Yeah. So we started it as zero tax basis, right? And now you have people like us paying 50% tax. So of every dollar that I earn, I'm cutting 50 cents of that dollar and giving it to the government. That's fucking absurd, right? I am not a believer in that unless they're doing good things with the money. If they're doing good things with the money and it's not just going to bullshit and it's not just getting lit on fire, don't fucking take my money. 50% is theft, in my opinion. And anyone that says it should go up is a fucking crazy person, because until they can... State of California has some of the highest taxes in the country. Medi-Cal's bankrupt. California Medi-Cal is bankrupt. This state doesn't know how to run and operate itself. We're watching it. The money that we paid into homeless, they're like, we can't even find it. We don't even know where it went. I'm not going to keep giving you my money if that's how you operate. Just like if you're a business person, right? And I'm like, hey, I'm hiring you for this service, but you've fallen on your face 10 times in a row and you've never performed this service for me. I'm the idiot if I keep hiring you and giving you money. It doesn't make sense. And so that's where I'm at with taxation. Do I think that you can eliminate taxes in total right now? No, never. We're not in that place because of the way that we spend money and the way that the world is right now. No, but I will never be a proponent of, hey, raise my taxes more until you figure your shit out. That's where I'm at. And I don't think people realize that. I don't think they fully understand that. People work hard for their money, right? A lot of people work harder than me for my money. They're working 3 different jobs to support their families. They're going from one job to the next job. They're working 60 hours a week. 30 hours of that week, you're giving to the government. 30 hours of that week, every single week, you're giving to the government. They better damn sure be respectful of that money. And they're not. And that's my issue.
Yeah, so I mean, 50% tax rate is pretty crazy. Obviously, like you're saying, if people are making over, right? If anyone paying 50%, it's 45 actually, and it's like over, what is it, 300?
Bro, mine is 50, and it's been. I'm telling you, a 50 on the dot. And I can't escape it.
Over a certain
no matter
amount,
what I do, I can't escape it.
But the way the tax code is written, over a certain amount, you pay that, right? Like, so you pay, it's like 25, 35, 45, right? And it gets to 45 or 48%, only over 376,000 or something like that, right? So you only pay 50% over that. And again, you might have a ton of money over that. Yeah. But I'm saying the average person definitely is not paying that. And also, I'll be real, I made over 7 figures last year, but I'm not paying 50% because, you know, like there's tax codes and loopholes that I'm sure we all use. And again, if it's a W-2 income, that's different, obviously, right? But again, 50% tax rate, I'll just say is not normal. Again, unless it's W-2 income and you're making over that amount. The average American's not paying that. And the thing is, I'm sure we all agree, 1917 to 2025 are completely different worlds. Completely different worlds. A lot of things have been done here in the U.S. that are great things for people. You know what I mean? And the government had a huge, huge part in that, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's just hard for me to compare 1917 to today, right? Because I'll just say that the government had a huge part of civil rights and things like that, right? Like a lot of money went into that. You know what I mean? And again, like obviously my family and my lineage benefited from that, right? So 1917 was just literally a entirely different world.
I don't think we live in a place where it could be 0%, right? But if you look at how the taxes are collected, what you just said is correct. Most people are not paying a 50% tax rate, but you realize that 95% of the taxes that are collected are people that are paying that 50% tax rate. Most people that are under that $350,000 threshold, it's about 5 to 7% of what's collected every year in taxes is those people that are paying those $350 less. The people that are like us that are making more than $350, yes, we're blessed, but we're blessed because we work fucking hard. Right? I didn't get shit. I wasn't given anything in this life. I didn't come with a trust fund. I came here, I worked as a fucking valet, got treated like shit, went to law school, got my master's in business, sacrificed my fucking time, didn't go to fucking Cancun when all my friends were going, studied my ass off, and my sacrifices paid off. And now I'm rewarded for that by being financially comfortable and making a very good living. But guess what? When you take away 50% of my income, my law partner, I talk about this all the time. I'm like, why the fuck would we want to grow this business? So I go from making $4 million to $8 million, but then you're going to take another $2 million from me. It's diminishing returns. And so people like me get stifled where we're like, I don't want to go employ more people. I don't want to go deal with more bullshit and more headache because it's not worth it, right? Whereas if you make it worth it, I'm going to go employ more people. I'm going to go make the economy better. I'm going to go make my business better. I'm going to go grow more businesses and make the country a better place. And so you have to look at it from that lens as well, right? Yeah. Is that you stifle that when you come at me and you go, hey, 50%. And it is 50%. Like, and bro, I've played all the games. He knows, like, all my cars are fucking wrapped with Bulldogs and shit so I can write them off. Like, I play all the real estate games. I got a tax attorney. I got a CPA. Like, I try to do everything I can, and it's fucking 50%. Like, it is what it is. And I've just come to know that the 15th of April is going to be the most painful day of my year, and it's fine. But it doesn't mean that that's how it has to be, and it doesn't mean that it should be that way. And again, I still come back to, I would happily write that check every year if I knew it wasn't getting wasted.
Yeah.
But when it's getting wasted and I'm watching it get wasted, that's where I have an issue with it. So I think we agree.
Yeah.
I just disagree in the sense of, I don't think that the government is fairly spending that money. And I think that I could do better things with it.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. And the only like, so, you know, just the short time we've known each other. There's kind of the whole tax cut thing is basically trickle down economics, right? Like Reagan, trickle down economics. Like that's been proven it doesn't work. Like maybe you, right, as an individual are going to take that extra money and employ more people. But just overall, that just hasn't been the case.
But you could codify it. You could force it to be the case. Mm-hmm. You could change the tax code and codify that to force people to use money for those things.
Absolutely. And then that gets back to legislation.
For
right?
sure.
Like the country needs to and can run better, and it needs to happen, right? Again, like I don't know what the number is. I read yesterday something like $680 billion of our deficits held by China. I actually thought it was more than that, but right. So we need to do something about this deficit, and just how do you get out, right, of deficit? Like you taxation and cutting spending.
The
right?
same way you eat an elephant. One bite at a time, sir. That's the way you do it.
I'm just saying though, like how,
start making the moves.
Like other than taxation and again cutting spending, there's only so much we can cut. Even if they cut $1 trillion, like we still have $34 trillion to go.
For sure, but it's at least a start because as long as the chart is going this way and not this way, it's a positive improvement, right? But for the last 25 years, this is all we've seen. Is just an increasing deficit. Every administration, Republican, Democrat, does not matter. Just an increasing deficit. We need to finally hit that precipice where we see this. And as long as we see this, we're heading in the right direction. I just think that that's where everyone should be. Like, everyone should be wanting this.
Yeah.
And we cannot get this until we make radical change. And radical change is going to be hard, and it's going to hurt, and it's not going to be fun.
Talking about tariff. what do you guys think about tariff? I was watching this news here and there, right? And seeing all these people come up and say, hey, tariff is bad, tariff is good. What's your stand of tariff? Do you think that actually affect American jobs? Do you think it protects American job? Do they make everything expensive? What's your take on it? Let's start with you.
So, to be candid, I'm not overly sophisticated when it comes to tariffs. So I'll tell you what I think is happening,
Sure.
but I'm not a macroeconomist where I can tell you, oh, this is, I don't ever say that I would be that. I don't think that they're being thought as a permanent thing. I think they're being used right now as a tool for negotiations. And I think that we are going to see how that plays out. I think the problem is that everyone we're using it as a tool of negotiations knows that we're using it as a tool of negotiations. And so when the other side is
They see your cards.
how long do I have to just hold on for, right? And Trump's playing the I will wait you out game. It is going to disrupt a lot of shit. And I don't know if it's for the benefit, right? I don't think it's the way that I would have gone about it, because I don't think that you can just go in and rattle all these cages all at the same time. I just think it causes way too much chaos, right? And so that's my opinion. Do I think that the current tariff situation and how it's set up with trade is unfair to the United States? Yes. Do I think that we should make strategic moves to try to move in a direction where that is more fair? Yes. Do I think that is just coming out and going, hey, fuck you 100%, hey, fuck you 25%? No, I don't. I don't think that that's the way that I would go about it. But do I think that we need to get to a place where there is more of a fair trade situation? Absolutely. Do I like that it's disrupting relationships with allies that we need and neighbors that we need? No. I think Canada's kind of shown itself to be like new age socialism, right? So I have my own opinions on what we've seen in Canada, especially through COVID, and I'm very outspoken about COVID. And so I have a bad taste in my mouth, which is how Justin handled the COVID situation in general and the way that they propagandize that. That's a different story for a different time. But I don't like the way that the tariff thing's been rolled out, and I think it's going to cause more harm than good in the short run. Now, will it bring back domestic jobs? Remains to be seen. I think it could, but do I think that's a longer term thing and a longer term cycle to see a benefit from it? Yes. Do I think that this could lead to some sort of recession or a drop in the market? Absolutely, because markets hate instability, and we are in a very unstable time right now. Whether that lasts 6 months or whether that lasts 2 years, that's what is going to be interesting to see, right? I don't think that they thought about this as like a long-term deal. I think they thought about this as this is going to be a short-term 6-month negotiation and things will get back to normal. And I think now they're realizing that might not be the case. So we'll see what happens.
Because I was watching Trump explaining what tariff is. And quote, he says, Trump said, it's a tax on a foreign country that's ripping us off and stealing our job. Is that really the definition accurate? I don't think it's accurate, to be honest.
No, it's not accurate. It's Trump being Trump, right?
Yeah.
Like it's Trump communicating how Trump communicates, right? So it's like, no, and you know, and that's something that I think by now everyone's realized. You know, it's like you got to take what this when he goes, Canada's going to be the 51st state. He doesn't mean that. He's just a fucking troll, right? Like that is what he is, right? So he's an entertainer. He's a troll. He's going to say stupid, outlandish shit. You got to realize that about the man, right? So it's grain of salt. But no, I think what he's saying is, hey, you're taxing us on goods. We should be able to do the same thing for you, or you should drop that tax percentage down on what you're taxing us on goods. It should be an even trade. And I do agree with that fundamentally. I just don't necessarily agree with how they've gone about it.
Yeah. Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything he said. I mean, the trade agreements are not like in favor of the U.S. Does that need to be negotiated? Yes, it should. But again, and you said it. That's who Trump is. Like he literally comes out the gate swinging at people. We're dealing with people. Again, there's people in these governments, right? Justin Trudeau and all these people and the president of Mexico. Like you're naturally gonna to dig your heels in, and that's what it is. And tariffs can be good if used strategically for a short amount of time. A trade war is bad for everyone.
Sure.
And we're in a trade war. It is what it is. Like Trump will say there's a tariff and then he'll rescind it and he'll say he's going to do it again and he'll rescind it again. And then in the meantime, Canada and Mexico are like, well, we're just going to do it, right? We're just going to do it. So now like there's not, they've stopped, they're taxing all whiskey and all the alcohol and things like that. It's just, and then again, so him saying Canada is going to be the 51st state, which is bananas. But he keeps saying it. Mm-hmm. And then he recently said, I think yesterday, he said, well, the taxes will only stop if you become the 51st state. So it's one thing to say it, but then one thing to keep implying it. And then we're obviously Ukraine and Russia, that whole thing going on. It's low key like Trump is that off the Richter scale that is us attempting to annex Canada completely off the table. I don't think to Canadians it is, right? Yeah. Especially because he's kind of aligning himself with Putin and he's like negotiating kind of for Putin with the whole, all right, we'll get into that. But what the way he's going about it is outrageous, right? It's outrageous and it's scary. It's scaring people. It's scaring a lot of people. And I was just reading an article that basically said that a lot of the Northeast electricity comes from Canada. Right. So let's say they're pushed so hard. They're like, well, we're just going to shut off the electricity. If that happens, what are we going to do? We're not going to let them shut off. Like there's people freezing over. So then we're like low key, the United States is going to have no choice but to go over there and now it's the harm of our country. So then like, yo, we got to go over here and stop you guys from doing that. Like it's a super slippery slope that's happening right now. And again, it's our allies. Like Canada has been like our people for forever. And now it's just like, yeah, it's crazy.
But one thing that I think that we should set right now, at least where I'm at and what your opinion is, because I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is I don't think that anyone, I mean, maybe like the MAGA guy with the MAGA hat and a kick 'em out shirt, maybe he'd argue that Trump's like the guy that needed to be elected, right? I don't think anyone would argue that Trump is the best candidate or the best person for the job, right? Because there's a lot. He doesn't speak like Obama, right? He is divisive. He says troll ass shit. He's, Condoleezza the rice lady. Like, what are we doing? Like that's not presidential, right? Sure. So there's a lot of things. January 6th, but he got elected in the face of all of those things, right? And so my point of saying that is this, is the Democratic Party still hasn't come to terms with why that happened. And the Democratic Party needs to look in the fucking mirror and realize that Trump didn't win, they fucking lost. And the way they handled themselves over the last 4 years is why Trump's in power. It's not because he's the best candidate and he speaks so great and he's so fucking smart. It's because they were doing such stupid ass shit for 4 years that you saw the popular vote for the first time in 20 years go to a felon. You saw every swing state go to a felon. And it was because the Democrats couldn't get out of their own fucking way. And until that is recognized and realized, we're just going to constantly see this same shit. Because it's sad to me that it's all, oh, these idiots voted for Trump. But you can't look in the own mirror and go, we put ourselves in this position. Because you did. And it was not an election of, hey, we love Trump so much. It was an election of, we're not okay with this bullshit. We're not okay with this agenda. We're not okay with the way these things are being handled, these social issues that have come to the forefront. We're not okay with the border. We're not okay with these things. And enough people came out and said, nope, not anymore. We'll take Trump. We'll deal with all the bullshit because we don't want this. And I think until that is recognized, we're going to keep doing this.
I agree. The Democratic Party has to look at themselves in the mirror, 100%. I feel Trump won because of lies, right? He said, day one, economy's fixed, inflation gone. And again, anyone that knows anything, right? They know that's impossible to do. But he's saying it and he's saying it and he's saying it and he's promising it, right? And so I feel like he won because I know a lot of people that voted for him, but I know people that close to me in my family, like my nephew. And he's like, yeah, I want things to to cost less. And again, it's still yet to be seen. It's 53 days in, right?
Egg prices are going down, folks.
Egg prices, they say, are going down. Not the pasture raised organic freaking each egg has a hotel room that I buy, but yeah. So I mean, I feel like he won running on things that just simply weren't true, and that's why a majority, because basically the economy was a huge thing, and that was the reason he won, is the economy. But and then I say that again, stock market record highs, unemployment record lows. This is all under Biden.
But that's why I think you're wrong about why he won, because of what you just said.
What's
stock
that?
Market record?
No. I'm just saying. I'm saying that unemployment rate is very low.
But what I agree with you. What I'm saying is I don't think it was the economics and the promises of it's going to be cheaper. I don't think that's what it was.
So that's what a lot of Americans said. Like even when you do polls, they say economy. So let's talk about those social issues. Okay, so there's trans issues, obviously. The border's huge, right? We could talk about that. But realistically, like if we just look at it, that's what the right media is just slapping in people's faces every single moment, every single day. I don't think it's as big of an issue that as they made it seem like, oh, every Democrat wants men to play in women's sport, things like that.
Bro,
right?
When you put up your Secretary of Health and it's a big fat trans man and that's the person that is your Secretary of Health, you're playing a dangerous game. When you have Dylan McVaney or whatever the Bud Light kid is that's in the White House, that's Biden's press person or whatever, you're playing a dangerous game. When you're doing and putting all those forefront issues of trans and all of those things, and you're playing the media game where you have the media going in and working with the government and suppressing stories and pushing stories that the government wants to push, and they're working with Facebook and they're working with Twitter to be able to silence people's speech but push an agenda, and people wake up to it, they go, fuck the government. When you have a government that's saying, hey, if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to suffer serious harm and bodily death, and we find out that they've been lying to us and how much money they're making off of it, you have people that go, fuck the government. That's what I think happened in this election. I think you had enough people that were like, y'all are full of fucking shit, and I'm not playing your game anymore. And they associated it with the seated house, which was the Democratic Party, right? I'm a firm believer that both parties are absolute dog shit and it's two wings on the same bird, right? But because that all happened when it was the Democrats that were in place and in power, people just went, this is not the United States of America that I want to deal with. Don't fucking talk to my kids about blowjobs when they're 10. Shut the fuck up. Teach them science. I didn't need to know that my teacher was gay. I didn't know that my teachers were gay. When we were growing up, that was not a common fucking thing we talked about. You taught me math, you taught me PE, you taught me that, and I went home and my parents taught me about the things that they wanted to teach me about. Don't fuck with my family. Get out of my house. That's where people started to get with the government. When you have California passing acts where, hey, if your kid identifies as trans, we can come in and take your kid if you don't let them say that. Go fuck yourself, California. Yeah. And you had enough people. That's why you've seen a migration out of California, right? So I think that is what woke people up. And then the border issue. I think the border issue is very underrated, right? Everyone was like, it doesn't matter who's in power. Like, we need to pass new reform. 55 days in, we've seen a pretty fucking stark contrast. Go to Terminal 2 at the airport. Because for 4 years, Terminal 2 was a fucking campground. The first floor of Terminal 2 was all people that came in, the government bought them a ticket, and they were flying all across the country. Go to Terminal 2 now. There's not one person there. So in 55 days, ask any Border Patrol agent, you've seen a massive change at that border. You were letting people into this country, and we were paying them to be able to survive here.
Based off the law, though. The current laws. That's what I'm saying.
But then what's changed in 55 days?
I agree. There's a problem at the border. He shut down the border. That's what changed in 55 days. He shut down the border not by not passing laws. He did it during COVID, right? He did during COVID because it's an emergency situation. He stopped the border.
He's allowing them to do their jobs now per the law.
I have family members that are Border Patrol agents.
So do I.
They've never stopped arresting people, right? This is the thing. This is the United States. The law says you come in. It needs to be changed 1,000%. But you come in, yes, they give you a court date and they freaking send you on your way. It's dumb. It's stupid. It should not be like that. But that's just the way the law is written right now. If you come in and you say, hey, I want political asylum, boom, you get a freaking asylum date 6 months, 8 months down the road, and then you're in the U.S. That's a terrible system, but that is the system. So Trump this is the problem. He's not solving anything. He's putting a Band-Aid on it for these next 4 years, however long in, and then someone's gonna come in and be like, it's illegal what we're doing. So then they're gonna put the law back in place. Biden didn't open the border. He just he lifted Trump's ban. He actually didn't lift it right away. He lifted it like 6 to 8 months later. He lifted the ban on the border, and the normal laws just kept acting. Right? Our border policy is broken.
So I got to disagree with you on this one.
Okay.
So one of my best friends is an immigration attorney. Okay. So I send him all my immigration cases come out of my office, and I've asked him this. I'm like, what was the difference? When you're going to come to a country and you're going to claim asylum, right? You're going to say, hey, I'm coming and I'm running from something, and if I go back, I'm fucking done for, right? That's political asylum. Okay. You have to come to a port of entry, and you have to do it the right way and declare it, right? You can't just fucking sneak in or coyote in or rush the border, right? That's not how it works. But when Biden came in, that's what changed, okay? So you no longer had to go through the right steps to claim political asylum, right? Whereas up to that, even Obama, who was the biggest deportation of any president that we've had in recent history, right? Even Obama, Hillary Clinton when she ran, Bill Clinton when they ran, everyone, secure border, secure border, secure border. For whatever reason, and I can tell you my crazy conspiracy theory about it, and you can tell me that I'm crazy, and that's fine. But for whatever reason, when Biden came in, they stopped running the political asylum game by the rules the way that it was run before. And so you had I'll say 10 to 15 because the 10's the number that they agree with. The 15 is the number that I say it is. 10 to 15 million people in 4 fucking years come into this country. The head of Border Patrol San Diego is a good friend of mine, okay? He was like, the funniest part is you have these congressmen and senators that come down, and this was during Biden, and he's like, they're all like, well, yeah, but they're vetted. Like, you're vetting them. And he's like, how the fuck am I vetting someone that comes from a country that has no vetting system? There's no computer system where a lot of these people are coming from. And the difference in the migration is that it's not Mexicans that are coming. It's not even Spanish-speaking countries in South America. You have Chinese men and you have foreign countries from Africa all over that were never coming before that are flooding that border because it's an open gate. That's a scary fucking thing. It should be a scary thing for all of us. Yeah. And to have them come in and not go, hey, you didn't come in the right way. You got to go back and do it again. But instead go, welcome in. Here's a cell phone. Here's a plane ticket. Where would you like to go? Oh, would you like to stay at a nice hotel in New York City? No problem. We got a place for you. You're going to have fucking chaos. Look at the United Kingdom right now. That's what happens. You have a breakdown in society unless you do it the right way. So I'm all for immigration. That's what's made this country great. But it cannot be uncontrolled chaos. You 100%. Have to be screening people. And guess what? As the United States of America, we should also be going, who do we want to come in? Who's going to make this country better? Who's going to put forth and put back into this country? Obama came out and said, you want to come here? No problem. You have to assimilate with our culture and you have to learn English. That's what we need. That was Obama that stated that, right? Because that's what you need to do to be an American.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. But don't come in here undocumented chaos and cause a bunch of bullshit and tell me that that's okay. And that's what we saw for 4 years. And I think that was one of the main issues for me. It was COVID and it was the border. And that was where I was like, hey, I'm voting for Trump. I've been a registered independent my whole life. I would have voted for Bobby if he would have ended up running for president. I voted for Trump for those 2 reasons and maybe a little bit of Ukraine as well. But those were my main 2 reasons, was how COVID was handled. And as soon as you talk to me about mandates and forcing me to put something into my body, I'm like, fuck you. I'll never vote for you again. And the border. Because I just think that if it didn't get stopped, this country doesn't look the same in 4 years from now.
I agree. We shouldn't have people just flooding in here, right? But again, the policy still needs to be.
It still does.
It needs to be changed.
There needs to be massive reform.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to give me the option of the 1 and the 2, if you're going to give me the way that Biden did it or the way that Trump did it, I'm taking Trump all day long until it's changed.
So what about the border bill? There was a border bill that was going to be passed, but Trump cannonballed it.
I don't know when that.
Just right before the election, there was a border bill, bipartisan border bill that was almost passed, but then Trump pretty much said that, hey, if they get the border handled while he's still in office, it's going to help Biden, right? Like, again, you can research that.
And if that's the case, I'd be speaking ignorantly because I don't know.
No.
So if that's the case, then I would agree.
Absolutely, yeah,
they should have passed that bill.
They should have absolutely passed, and that's the thing. Like, that did happen, right? We could all look it up. And there was a border bill that was bipartisan, right? And even Republicans were there. Like, there was, I forgot his name, but he's like saying, like, if my colleagues just read it, they would agree with it. But Trump said, like, no, we can't. So that just kind of shows.
That's the political game, and that's the bullshit.
Yeah,
and
that's baloney. Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you. That's the bullshit.
But
what do you think about them selling off pieces of the wall in the last 4 months before Biden's out? Why are you selling off pieces of the wall? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's another intentional political move to try to hurt the next administration. That's not America.
Yeah.
We all win if we all win.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be like, I'm going to fucking sabotage you and shove a stick in your spokes to show that you look like an idiot so I look better. That's not in the betterment of all of us. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think we're at, is that it's a win. I want to win more than I want America to win. And that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Spoke about Ukraine. What's your stand on Russia not being part of NATO? Because, Putin expressed that he wanted to be part of NATO, right? And why do you think they weren't accepted? And also, what's your stand on the U.S. funding Ukraine for so long, even though they are not part of NATO?
I have a huge issue with the funding of Ukraine. I don't think they should be a part of NATO. Mm-hmm. I don't think that is in the best interest of anyone. Mm-hmm. I think Putin was the aggressor and is not a good man. Mm-hmm. I don't think that he should be defended. His actions should be defended. But I think that there should be more understanding on how we got to where we got. Because this wasn't something that just came about in 2020. This is something that that's been ramping up for the last 20 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Probably, no?
Or maybe even 87.
87.
Yeah. So for a very long time, this has been building. And if anyone knows anything about history, it's that on both sides of a conflict, there's wrong, right? Everyone thinks of every issue that the United States backs as like a Marvel movie, right? Mm-hmm. Where there's a bad guy and then there's a good guy and we're the fucking Captain America and they're the evil, nemesis. That's not real life, right? That's not the reality of any of these conflicts. And the United States is often the one that's in that wrong seat that is poking the bear and doing shit to provoke shit. Maybe in our interest, it's arguable. I have friends that argue with me and they're like, oh, I love that the CIA goes and causes coups in other country because it's betterment for us. And that's just not where I'm at with it. But they're like, if it's the best thing for America, I'm okay with it. That's not how I look at it. Mm-hmm. I don't think that we should be involved in this. I don't think that we should be funding a mass slaughter of people. I don't want any war going on. I hate what's going on in Israel and Gaza. I hate what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. Do I think that people that say, well, if we don't stand up for Ukraine, he's taking all of Europe? You're high. You're high. He's not suicidal. That is not what would happen. This is a lot deeper than that. And once you understand the history behind it, you understand why Putin did what he did. Not saying that it's justified, but you understand why he did it. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go, well, how can we walk away from this? Mm-hmm. Because guess what? This is bad for the entire world. Sure. You do not want a nuclear superpower in conflict with anyone. Like, that's not a good thing for anyone, right? And so we need to de-escalate. And what Trump did with Zelensky is one of the few things that I actually fully agree with how he did it. Because if you watch the full interview, Zelensky came in there the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And you don't do that to a guy like Trump or he will fucking check you, right? That's not my negotiation style, but that is his negotiation style. And look where we're at now. Now we're finally, for the first time, having ceasefire talks and peace talks and things like that. And that's in the best interest of everyone. It is not in the best interest of Ukraine to keep this going because you will have no men left. You will run through your entire country. That is not a good thing for you. Peace is a good thing for you. And so that's where I'm at. But I am sick of the United States getting involved in all of this bullshit because at the end of the day, the reason why we get involved is money. That's why we get involved. And I do think that there has been a lot of money laundered through this war. And I think that needs to stop as well. And I think that's what most wars are, is money laundering. So that's where I'm at with it.
I mean, so I don't know the history. Maybe if you can tell me the history regarding, I mean, I know obviously Ukraine used to be a part of Russia.
Yeah.
Right?
USSR back.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Right. Berlin Wall, all that stuff.
Yep.
Other than that, I mean, Russia invaded Ukraine, right? Period. Now, what I think what he did to Zelensky is bananas, right? The way he treated him. They're asking him about suits. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. It's a bad look for the U.S., right? And then so now the peace talks. I agree, peace is better, but they ran in the country. They're gonna get part of the country if the negotiations go right the way that they want them to, the way that Trump is like campaigning for Putin, because that's what Putin wants, right? And the problem with that is that Putin is getting part of this country. He ran in. It's like me going in your house. You have a 5-bedroom house. You have 5-bedroom, 3-bath. I go in. I take over 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. And then someone comes in, negotiates, and I get to keep 1 bedroom, 1 bath. That's ridiculous. That makes no sense. And I agree the fighting has to stop. But also, Putin did that one time. Zelensky said, hey, I want some assurances that he can't just do it again in 3 years, 5 years, whatever time. He's not getting any assurances for that, right? There's already agreement between them. I'm sure you know this. There was already agreement between them. He just broke it and he invaded, right? So the reason I don't think he'll take over all of Europe, but it just shows Putin, which is a dictator, and that
so's Ukraine.
Yeah.
Classically is a dictator system.
So Zelensky was
he refuses to hold elections right now.
Well, he's in war. What do you mean? They've been at war. They're literally being bombed.
Look at a fucking Kyiv nightclub, bro. Shit's popping.
People are gonna.
You can hold elections.
They're gonna make. No, you can't hold elections though because most of the population is displaced. They're not even there. Like that we could agree. Like if we're literally having bombs dropped on us right now here in the U.S. right. If we're having bombs dropped on us, there's no way we can have a fair election because the turnout's not going to be what it should be.
So let me give you the background. Let me give you the history, okay? As I know it, because history's arguable. All history is arguable. Jeffrey Sachs, who is one of the foremost United States foreign policy experts in the country. You can look up Sachs. He's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican. He's an independent. He's not a Trump guy in any way, shape, or form. He was talking about this for the last 4 years, right?
What's his name?
Jeff Sachs. SACHS. Okay. He basically breaks it down, and I'm happy to send it to you. It's like an 11-minute long video, but it's a really good breakdown. When the Berlin Wall fell, when that happened, basically what they said was, hey, that's fine, but we need a barrier between Europe and between Russia. And we came out and said, no problem, we get it. We're going to do that. NATO is not going to expand, okay? And systematically from there on out, we pushed NATO, the United States being the main NATO member, we fund it, right? We pushed it closer and closer to Russia's doorsteps, right? To the point where we are basically surrounding Russia, okay? So you have to start to think about it there. If that was the situation where Russia, because we are NATO, that is what it is, started to put bases on the Mexican border and on the Canadian border, we'd be in war the next day. That's just the reality of it. We would never let that happen. So we started pushing closer and closer. Putin this whole time is like, hey, don't fucking force my hand. You keep doing this, you're going to force my hand, okay? So we took over 3 countries that are right above Ukraine. NATO did. They came on as NATO countries. So now we're there. Now, in 2019, we start talking about putting a port right on the Russian coast, right, in Ukraine, through NATO. And we start talking about bringing in NATO or bringing in Ukraine as a NATO member. And Putin says, this is my line in the sand. You do that, I'm not going to be okay with it. I'm going to go in, I'm going to take over that port. I'm going to make sure you can't take it over because I'm not going to let you put US base right there on my border. Okay. Which all of us should be able to look at unbiased and go, I can understand why that'd be an insecurity for you. Okay. But why he went into that region of the country was because there was a battalion for the Ukraine government, right? That was literally a Nazi battalion that was slaughtering Russians because that used to be part of Russia, right? So there was communities that still identified as Russian. They lived in Ukraine, but they identified as Russian. They followed Russian culture. They spoke Russian. And this battalion was slaughtering them. It was a massive genocide.
People in Ukraine.
Yes, in Ukraine. And it was part of the Ukrainian government, right? And so Putin went in and said, hey, if you're going to slaughter these people, I'm going to come in and protect them. So that was one of the reasons why he came in. The other was the port on the military base. But what you have to realize that's more interesting to me than all of that is how the United States was involved in Ukraine. In 2014, the CIA ran a coup. This isn't conspiracy. This is all factual. You can look it up. We ran a coup in Ukraine. We didn't like that we couldn't control the Ukrainian government. So what do we do when we can't control the Ukrainian government? The CIA runs a coup. We get rid of that president. He gets tossed to the side. We put in some CIA prop that runs their government. That's exactly what happened in 2014.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we picked an actor. Zelensky. That's what he was. He was an actor. He was on a TV show about a normal guy that became the president, ran the country. It was one of the more popular shows in Ukraine. We were like, hey, this guy's got a lot of popularity. Let's put the media behind him. Let's push it just like we always do in all these other countries. He gets elected. Do I think that he got put in place and we rigged an election? No, but I think we propped him up, pushed media behind him, and he got elected, right? So then you have Mr. Green Shirt, which the suit question is what's funny to me. Why the fuck are you wearing a costume? It's a costume. You wear the same thing. He's playing a role to me. He is an actor controlled by the CIA doing his job and allowing us to come in and instigate this war and this conflict. So Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, all of these people
Defense
can make money and put money and pad their pockets. War is a racket. All wars are a racket. They are set up so rich people can get richer and powerful people can get more power. And so that's what I think the backstory that people don't see. Am I saying that Putin is a good guy and not wrong? No. Do I think we should be hammering him as well? Absolutely. But do I think that this is a fucking propagated Ponzi scheme of a war? Abso-fucking-lutely. Abso-fucking-lutely.
With the
byproduct
of just
tens
and thousands of people dead.
Yes. And unfortunately, if you go back in history, that's what most wars are.
So do you think that essentially we wanted this war to happen?
Yes. 1,000%. 1,000%.
So the U.S. continued to place people around. And again, I wouldn't put it past the U.S. government, right? Just because, again, can go down the rabbit hole with all of 9/11 and everything
That's what I'm saying.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Weapons
of mass destruction. You look at
just,
all those things.
Just to invade, which is not true.
You need a reason. You need to get the people behind you. And so you need to have some sort of reason. People call them false flags. People call them different things, right?
Yeah.
But that is how you propagate the situation. That's how you use propaganda to get people to support you. But what they think they're supporting is not really what they're supporting. And that's what I see when I look at Ukraine and Russia. And I think it's really sad because I think innocent people are just getting slaughtered. And I think it's for money. And that's what bothers me. And I don't want my money going to that. Do I like Putin? Do I think he's a good guy? No. Do I think that we should be supporting him? No. But do I think that the Ukrainian government needs to realize, hey, this needs to end and you guys need to make a mass effort to put a stop to this? Yes.
So you think they should just concede their land?
No, I don't think it's going to work like that. What I think is going to happen, I think the mineral deal is an interesting thing.
The 50-50?
Right? Yeah, I think the mineral deal is an interesting thing because I think it's almost like a NATO membership without being a NATO membership, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think it's strategic.
With
We're in there. We're going to set up full-on facilities. We're going to pour in a ton of infrastructure because It's going to be worth our time, right? And we're going to be pulling out all those minerals. You invade when we're in there, watch what the fuck happens. Like, then you will have a conflict with the United States of America, and Putin knows that. So I think it's a very interesting chess move. I don't think Trump's smart enough to have come up with it. I think someone else came to him and was like, hey, think about this play. But I do think that setup is a very unique setup that actually could work. And no, I don't think that they should just concede their land. Do I think that they're going to end up conceding part of the region? Yes, I think those Russian communities that identify as Russian that were being slaughtered, do I think those might be annexed? Yes. Do I have a problem with that? No, because I don't think it's like a land grab. Like, I have friends that argue with me on this, and they're like, well, if you give him that, what comes next? And I'm like, I just don't see that as being the way that it is. I understand the propaganda behind why that's being pushed, but I just don't think that's the reality of the situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I'm sure you can see how, like, one could think that.
For sure.
One can think that.
But then you also have to realize that we do the same thing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And we have to be able to have that conversation and know that we, the United States, do the exact same thing. We did the exact same thing in Ukraine. We went into a sovereign nation. We said, we don't like your president. We ran a coup. We removed him. We put someone in place. That is wrong.
Yeah,
in my
100%. 100%.
Right? Like,
No,
there's no
absolutely.
right in that. And if Putin did that exact same thing, we'd all be going, this evil dictator went in and fucked with another country. How dare he? I'm like, we're doing that every day, folks. Every day.
Yeah, in different countries around the world.
In different countries around the world.
So the difference I would say is that we go and we, again, and we hold elections. But like, let's be real. Like, elections are all bought.
100%.
In the United States, they're bought.
Agreed.
Right?
I love that.
Like,
Agreed.
The most money, and then we can even go back to Elon. How much did he put in? $200 and something million to get Trump elected. But so we put in and we let them run elections, right? Saying Zelensky isn't running an election right now. I mean, like, they're literally getting bombed, right? Like, so I would just push back on that. Obviously,
did you see what he said?
Who?
Zelensky.
What'd he say?
I'll hold an election tomorrow if you let me into NATO. That's not your answer.
Yeah, no,
that's not your fucking response.
That's definitely not an answer.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not the, hey, you let me into NATO, which he is very well aware what that will cause. You will have a world war, which is bad for all of us. No one should be cheering for that. Like, NATO should be off the table. It shouldn't be a discussed thing because we know the consequence of what that is. So for him to come out 2 weeks ago and go, no problem, I'll hold elections tomorrow, let us into NATO. That tells me it's not that.
Do you think he's just looking out for the best interest of his country, though?
No, I think he's a puppet.
No. But I'm saying, like, why does he want to be part of NATO so bad?
Because
he knows that if you mess with a NATO country, everyone is on your side.
I don't think he's looking out. I think he is a true puppet of the CIA, of the ABC.
So the CIA
entities.
wants World War III?
No, the CIA wants conflict because that's how the CIA makes money. That's what it is. I don't think that they're going to push it to NATO membership. That's why I think you're seeing resolution right now. I don't know what would have happened if you would have 4 more years of Biden and they would have pushed NATO membership. Maybe you'd see World War III. Maybe you would. And I don't think that that is something that the CIA and the United States government and Northrop Grumman would honestly be that upset about. It just means more money for them.
Those defense contractors obviously are purely in it to line their pockets. But again, we can say, do we know, right? Like, then now we're guessing. Like, would World War III happen if it happened? We don't know that. Right?
We don't.
We don't know that, so we can't obviously say that.
But you can look at the past world wars, and you can look at the past conflicts, and you can work at, like, the 9/11s, like we just talked about, weapons of mass destruction, and you can look at all those things and take notes from them and realize that most of these things and conflicts are pushed and continue to be pushed for money.
And the United States government is behind, the CIA is behind tons of them. I mean, we all love watching movies about this stuff, right? We love watching movies about, you know what I mean?
So, and now, thank God, Freedom of Information Act, a lot of it's become declassified. So we've been able to confirm a lot of these things and go, oh, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened. Like Gulf of Tonkin. Like, I mean, more and more we're learning, oh shit, this was a fake event that was set up by our government to get people really pissed off and riled up, and behind what the government wanted, even though it wasn't the real reasons the government was telling us, there's enough of those things where I start telling people, I'm like, if this happened 8 times, how is it so hard for you to believe that it happened a 9th?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just look at the track record.
Yeah.
So that's how I see. I don't think Putin's a good man. I don't think that I think that there's a lot more facade to the situation than people are willing to recognize.
Yeah.
And I hope it ends, because I don't think a war is good for anyone. And I think that all of these conflicts, we should all be pushing for peace. That's my hope.
Yeah.
It's my hope.
What do you disagree on, Dan? What's something that you disagree on, Dan, or something that you agree on, Dan?
No, I mean, war is good for no one, obviously. We should all hope and pray for peace, 100%. Again, I just don't like Putin going in there, and like they might concede land, right? So he's going to take land, right? So I don't know the details regarding, like, I've heard only like, oh, there was Nazis and he was going to kill. I haven't done the research on that and know if that is actual fact or not.
Yeah.
But again,
It's the Azov Battalion is what you should look up.
which was part of the
Ukraine.
Ukrainian government.
Yeah.
That's obviously that's crazy. And so, but again, it's painting Putin as a good guy. Putin came into power 25 years ago, came into power and never ran elections again. Right.
He's a dictator for sure.
He's a right.
No one can say that. Yeah,
So
100%.
So I'm just afraid that he goes in and he takes a little bit of land. Right. So you probably know more information than me, or maybe, why did he annex Crimea? Like, so that's just showing Putin invaded Crimea, right? So he invades Crimea, he invades, obviously Ukraine. Like, what's next? So it's almost like he doesn't want the NATO to go. So he's like, I'm just gonna take over everything here. So you can't, like, that's not the solution.
So Crimea was the start of the Azov Battalion. That's what I was talking about, why he first went in. That's what pulled him in. At least what he says pulled him in.
Yeah.
Are there alternative motives for all of these things? Of course, because they're not playing checkers, they're playing 3D chess.
Yeah.
Right? Always. So it's never going to be what I think or there's always going to be alternative motives.
And obviously
he is a dictator and a bad
that's
man.
what he said to us, right?
For sure.
Like, so he said to the people on the news station, like, hey, they're slaughtering our people, right? So again, like,
it could be the weapons of mass destruction.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
I agree
That's
with
what
you.
I'm saying. So again, like, I would like love doing some research on that about, was there really Nazi battalions slaughtering Russians? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's not just public information like that, but like that's the thing with me. So like,
For sure.
I'm very, very big on like, okay, I need some receipts, right? Like I need to see, and you being an attorney, obviously I've been on the complete other end of it, right? Like I've been incarcerated and I've been in front of judges, and so I know what it is to be there and be able to have evidence and be able to not have evidence. Is like, dude, I'm just straight guilty, right?
For sure.
And then so when people are like say things, I know like, okay, I need to have something to solidify that or prove that. So
and I think that's smart. I think that the problem that we face in today's world is exactly goes to your point right there about receipts, right? So the Azov Battalion is easily Googleable. It did exist. They are a Nazi organization. They did slaughter people. That'll come up if you just do a basic search. But that's not my point. My point is the problem with receipts is, where are you going for the exactly? We learned this in COVID, right? Everyone would post something on Facebook or about the vaccine or something they disagreed with, and it would get fact checked, right? And people would go, "Oh, see, you were wrong. It got fact checked. What you posted was not correct because it got fact checked." Turned out the fact checkers were all bullshit, right? Turns out most of these media organizations are getting paid by the government. So you have to start to question where you're going for your information. And that's the hardest part of today's world, right? Is because you can't just take what the New York Times says and go, "Oh, well, they wrote it, so it's right." No, because there's so much propaganda in this world, and goes back to the Operation Mockingbird, goes back to what USAID is funding and those kind of things. It makes it really hard to get receipts, right? Because the classic places that we used to go for them are paid and bought for. So unless you can get source information, right? Unless you can hear it from a source or get it directly from the source, it's hard to call it a receipt. I'm arguing last night with a buddy on Jeff that owns Everbull, and him and I go back and forth on this shit all the time. And he's like, Putin wants to take all of Europe. And he's sending me article after article, every Washington Post, New York Times, Putin. And I'm like, bro, in not one of these articles is a direct quote or a video of him saying this. It's all opinion pieces, all stating that this is what he's going to do. But there's not one piece of source information, right? I can't just take that and go, well, that's what he wants to do because the Washington Post told me so. And that's the hardest part of the world that we're living in, is where do you go to for receipts, right? And I love this shit because probably the attorney thing, I like to dig in and dive deep on it. No one else is going to spend that kind of time, right? They're going to go, you got fact checked, you're wrong, throw that out, you're not credible anymore. That's the hardest part for me with where we're at, right? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Like, and good to your point, anytime I'm looking at something, like I'll see something, they say Trump did this, or, like Kamala did this, X, Y, and Z, and I'll like go look it up. Then I'll go here and look it up. Like I'll try to at least hit like 3 or 4 different websites that are going to give me like a different skew of information. I'll hit, XAI, whatever, his AI is, and ChatGPT and Google, right? So yeah, because I know like one journalist, like that doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, that is super hard. So when you say source, you mean like from someone's mouth?
That's what I mean. Like at this point, like it's hard to buy anything unless you get source material, right? Oh, the FBI is now putting this in. Let me see it. Let me see the FBI bulletin or memo or whatever that said that's source material, right? That's what you end up having to, but people don't have that time. And people also don't know how to go dig for it. Unless you're like a professional researcher or investigator, you just don't know how to dig for those kind of things. So it's really hard to be able to figure out what's true and what's complete bullshit. Yeah. And it's all so twisted. Someone sent me something last night that was like, Arlington Cemetery scrubs any or all mentions of Black veteran members, women, and the Civil War, right? And I'm like, well, that's fucked up. Like what? Like why? Like what's that even about? So then I do a quick Google search, and that's from one source, and it's the Army's trying to figure out why these pages were lost and to be able to put them back. And I'm like, well, that's a lot different than scrubs. You know what I mean?
So to that. So the Trump signed an executive order, right, to remove anything that could be related to DEI, right? DEIA.
What's your opinion on DEI?
So I'm not for affirmative action.
Okay.
I don't believe DEI is affirmative action. I believe that the right has pushed it as affirmative action. So DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility is technically what the term is.
Yeah.
They just shortened it, right? It's just saying, hey, there needs to be more access to this job. So if we're running a new, a new position, we need to send it out to a lot of more potential candidates.
Okay.
Right? I believe
that I can get behind.
Right.
That 100%. I can get behind.
And that's actually like, if you like, there's no proof where it's like, hey, there's this white, right? We'll just say what everyone's thinking. Hey, there's this white dude that got a better score than this black dude, but this black dude, we want to hire him because it looks good, right? So he gets the job above that.
Can I tell you where I think that the left fucked up on it?
Yeah.
Because I think that you're right about what you just said. I think most people that are common sense people would go, well, yeah, that's fine. Like, why? I want everyone to have the chance.
And
if you're the best person for that job, you should get that fucking job.
Absolutely.
Where I think people went wrong with it, where it was like, for example, just because it's timely, the Los Angeles Fire Department, right? So fire chief comes in, she's a woman, and she's like, hey, we only have a 5% female force, right? I need that. My goal, I'm going to have that 20. So we're going to push really hard to get females in on the force, right? To me, that's not going out and getting the best candidate. If you end up having more, you should bring in women, right, for the job, But if they're not the best candidate for that job, you shouldn't pick them just because they are a woman.
Of course not.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it ended up going to. And you see that with a lot of and it's timely. A lot of our airline companies. We don't have any women pilots. We want more women pilots. We're going to raise the percentage of women pilots.
But
I don't give a fuck if you're a guy or a girl. When I get on that plane,
of course.
I want the best fucking pilot in that seat.
100%.
I don't care if you're purple. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're trans. If you're the best fucking pilot. But what I don't want is to go, hey, I have 2 candidates. I'm going to go with the female, even though she's not as good of a candidate as the man.
That's affirmative action.
That's where I'm like, I have a problem with that.
100%. And I feel like everyone on the left and the right have a problem with that. It's just the way it's framed. So I'll say to her statement, right? Like perception, right? Perception is everything. Like her saying that, to me, that doesn't mean that she's going to hire women that are less qualified over it. She's just saying, hey, I want to make this 20%. So maybe you do more marketing to women. Maybe she meant in clerical positions. And you know what I mean? Like, we don't know what she, like, just that statement that you said she said, to me, that doesn't mean that the bar is being lowered. It just means that she wants to really push for more women, right? So, but again, I feel like the, right-wing media or whatever, they twist it like, hey, these people are less qualified. And and this hits home for me, because now people look at a black doctor, right? A black lawyer, I'm half Mexican too, a Latino, this and that, and they think that you're automatically less qualified because DEI is such a big thing. My sister, she's an attorney, right? As she went to Loyola Law, right? She's here in California now, and she has a newer job. And she's literally, they're in like a Zoom call, this and that. And this is before they did a rescinding on all the DEIs, like in jobs and things like that. And someone straight asked her, because she's only black person, hey, are you the DEI hire?
Yeah. Which is just an ignorant thing
and
to ask.
And that's bananas.
For
That's
sure.
what I'm saying. And that those type of things are happening. And again, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Do you know that like all handicap sidewalks and all that's DEI?
Yeah, and in theory, you're 1,000%
that's how it
correct.
should be. Yeah.
That's how it should be.
And it
but it's
shouldn't
not
be.
how it transformed, and it's not how it was manipulated. And I don't think it was just right-wing media. I think that there is fault on both sides of it. And I think that if it would have been rolled out where it was, hey, this is still going to be the best man or woman for the job, regardless of man or woman, regardless of race, regardless of that, we're still going to put the best people in. And that was also announced in a forefront of the movement, it'd be a totally different reaction.
I feel like there's been, like, if you do the research, there hasn't been lowering of any bars. It's just looked at like that, right? And it's put hand in hand with, like, again, affirmative action, right? Where it's like, oh, well, they might have a little bit lower test score, but they're of color, they're ethnic, right? Which I don't think very few people agree with. But it's just been rolled out as if it's the same thing, which it's not. Like, I'll be real. I was talking to my sister about it yesterday, and I was like, yeah, if I'm on the front lines and I get shot, like, if there's a chick next to me, a lady next to me, I don't care. She needs to be able to carry me.
For sure.
Right? Fact. And is there some women that are like absolutely be able to carry me? They're freaking beasts that will be able to carry you?
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. Put them out there. Right? So there's not like a lot of evidence showing that they're lowering the bar for these people, but that's the way DEI has been framed. And that's why it's like, and then so that was going to say to my point, you were saying, so they're actually scrubbing any, and you guys probably heard about this, any mention of the word gay.
I haven't heard.
You haven't heard this?
No.
They're scrubbing any mention of the word gay in all government websites. The plane that dropped the first atomic bomb on Japan was called the Enola Gay, which was the gentleman's grandma's name. Yeah. They're scrubbing that from the government website.
Well, yeah, I mean that's just silly.
It's
like,
it's silly stuff. There's people that are like,
but can I ask you
XYZ gay last name? They're scrubbing their names.
Well, that's stupid though. But like anyone with a brain's like, what? What? Like it's not even. You're not even saying gay. You're saying someone's name, and like what? Like But I have a question for you. Why, when you're not talking names, right? So taking those examples out of it, but talking about homosexuality, heterosexuality, sexuality in general, why does any of that need to be on a government website at all? Heterosexuality, homosexuality, why does any of it need to be there at all?
I can't think of a reason.
You know what I mean? Like just in general.
Well, I think what it is so part of DEIA is to make sure that like, okay, so it's not hiring people that are less qualified, but whoever is there to make them feel welcome, right? To make them feel like they're not being reprimanded, they're not being,
For sure.
right? So
For sure.
So I could see why, like where it would mention like, hey, if someone is homosexual, right, you treat them the same as you do everyone else.
100%.
Right? Based off of merit. So
Respect, love, it doesn't matter what you are.
So that's where I could see you would need to mention it, right? Because you need to be, like people need to be told, you know, because if you let people do what they want and run rampant, they're going to do it. And that's what just, I feel like the administration right now, and we can get into that, like they're cutting so many things, like the Consumer Federal Protection Bureau literally has saved the American taxpayers $22 billion. And it's just, all it does is protects people from bank fraud and overcharging on fees and X, Y, and Z. And Elon is cutting, like pretty much cut that, right? So again, those things, I feel like they're going in here and they're ripping so many things back. Like some of these things are really good.
Can I give you one example before we transition from DEI of why I think that it was viewed is how that was being rolled out?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a micro example. So you have the Biden administration come in and DEI starts to be pushed, right? One, I think people like me got a little bit suspicious of why it was being pushed because the first place it got talked about being pushed was the World Economic Forum, right? And anything that comes from the World Economic Forum, I'm a little bit concerned about. So that's where it started. They talked about how they wanted their partner nations to start pushing it. Biden comes in, Biden starts pushing it, right? I think where people, maybe it's right-wing media, maybe whatever it is, but I think where people started to go, oh, no, I'm not okay with this. Micro example, you have someone like Rachel Levine, the Secretary of Health.
Okay.
She comes in when you're pushing DEI, and you're like, this is your Secretary of Health. That, to me, and to a lot of people, goes, she's not the best fucking person for that job. You're going to tell me that a trans man who is completely out of shape, right? Whose kids are all completely out of shape, who doesn't really like have a background for that position where you could find a better candidate, and you're pushing DEI, I correlate the two. My mind correlates the two. And I go, you're pushing candidates into positions because she was a trans man. That's why she got that job.
But we don't know that.
I can say that's my belief.
That's what you believe.
That's my belief.
So people, I mean,
to push a cultural change.
Yeah.
I don't think that Rachel Levine gets that job because she's the best person for that position.
Well, if we look at Secretary of Health, is that what her position is? If we look at all the Secretary of Health for the past 40 years, I'm pretty sure they were all out of shape. Like, right? Like that's what you're saying. Like she's out of shape. Like him, whatever. The person being trans.
I'll correct you once.
The person being trans or not, to me, like if they're the best person for the job, right? That's their life decision. Like,
agreed.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, we don't know that is the reason, right? Again, that's how you perceive it.
For sure.
But to piggyback on you saying that maybe doesn't have the best qualifications for it, we're literally talking about every person in the Trump administration. Pete Hegseth, right? Like JFK, what's his name?
I can go on for a long time about RFK, but I know a lot about RFK.
Yeah, so I'm saying all these people though, Linda McMahon is now the secretary for the Department of Education, right? But
you can question their competency and why they were put into place. But I don't think anyone's looking at it and going, Linda McMahon was put into that place because she was a woman. And I'm saying whether I'm right or wrong in my perception and my belief, I think a lot of people correlated that and looked at it the same way that I did and said, hey, you're trying to push a cultural change on us and we're not okay with it. And you're trying to use DEI to push that cultural change. Now, I might be wrong on that, but I think that a lot of people perceived it the same way, which is why DEI has gotten the backlash that it has.
Yeah. And again, it was, I agree with you. It was probably bad,
Optics.
optics, 100%. Bad
Just like the Elon thing. It's bad optics.
It's bad optics. So yeah, and I wasn't saying those people as DEI. I was just saying, like, you're saying, like, is she really the most qualified? I mean, we can, like, most of Trump's people he's putting in are just loyal. Kash Patel, all these people, they're just like ultra loyal to him. Not the best people for the job, but people that he knows are going to say yes to him.
In some of those people, we could have an argument. I have check-in time. We could have an argument that some of them, and I would agree with you, some of them are not probably overly qualified, but some of them I think certainly are, right? Like, I would disagree with you on Kash and his background and what he's done. I think Kash Patel is there's not a competency issue with Kash Patel. You could disagree with some of his stances and positions, but if you look at his resume, it's not a Pete Hegseth, right?
Yeah.
That one, I can understand that argument on competency and whether or not you should be put in charge of the biggest branch of, like, I understand those things. Mm-hmm. I don't think Kash is one of those. I don't think Tulsi is one of those. And I don't think RFK is one of those. I don't think Pam Bondi is one of those. I think you can question their positions and question what they stand for, question if they're only being put in place because they're loyal to him. Those things are fair, but competency, I don't think is fair to question on several of those. Some of them, yes, but on some of them, you look at their resume, they are fucking very equipped to do that job.
Yeah.
Nice. Last question before to wrap up. Talking about Gaza and Israel, let's change topic real quick. What's your stand on Gaza? Do you think that the idea of Trump creating the Gaza Riviera is a good
joke.
idea? Do you think that deporting, let's use this word, deporting people from Gaza and then moving them from Gaza to another Arabic country, do you think is a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's a joke, and I think it's insulting. I think that people have had their whole lives wiped out, and you've lost family members and your kids, and then you see this fucking AI video of, like, it bothered me so much, and I just thought it was so lacking in tact and so insulting to everyone that lives in that region that's gone through what they've gone through. And I absolutely despise that he posted that video. Yeah. Now, with that being said, I think that he is a troll, and I think the reason why he did it was because he's trying to provoke, in my opinion, the Saudis to get involved, and he knows that they're probably the best ones to come in and get involved there and handle that. And he's basically saying, hey, if you don't fucking do it, we're going to do it. And that's his troll way of doing it. But I hated every second of that video, and I don't think it was right. The situation in general, we can have a broader conversation about, but that video in particularly, I don't want the United States there. I don't want the United States to have a settlement there. I don't want us to be involved there. I don't think it's a good thing for anyone. And so, no, I completely disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto. Now, I mean, yeah, of course. Like, and again, that's just my broader issue with Trump. Like, when someone shows you who they are, you should just believe them, right? And I believe that's who he is. I believe he's an opportunist. He's a huge opportunist. And I believe absolutely if he can make it happen, he would absolutely build a Riviera there. He's not thinking about those people, right? He's thinking about what's going to be in the best interest. Honestly, I believe for him and his family and their legacy. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm 100% against it. I think that we side so much with Israel all the time for everything. Was it October 7th? I think it was when it happened, October 11th. That was terrible. Absolutely. So, a few hundred people, maybe 1,000 people died, kidnapped. It was terrible. Like, I've heard the stories of what happened. For us to just go and wipe out like almost an entire people it's not okay, right? It's not okay. So me personally, like, and we talked too much about faith. I'm a Christian, right? And but I don't understand why, like, Israel can do no wrong. They can do no wrong. And I know the biblical reason for it, but but still, like, it's really sad what's happened over there. And we need that conflict needs to stop. And yeah, it bothers me.
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy this conversation?
This conversation?
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10.
I loved it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think I give it a 10. Like I think that these are the kind of conversations that need to happen, and I think people need to. I have people on my social media, like literally right now, that this guy posts every single day. Trump and Musk must die. Right? Like that is his post on his social media every single day. I'm watching videos of people going, I'd like to see every woman that was ever voted for Trump rounded up and raped on TV. Like that was on the New York Post today, right?
Sick
You saw
people.
that, right? And I'm like, this is not going to get us anywhere, right? Hate only breeds hate.
Yeah.
And that if you go, hey, and this has been the thing that's been most alarming to me over the last 3 or 4 months. There's been so many people and people in my own life that are like, if you voted for Trump, don't fucking talk to me anymore. Yeah. Family members, don't fucking talk to me anymore. I don't need to have anything to do with you. I don't care about your reasons. Don't fucking talk to me anymore. How do you think what do you think the chain reaction of that is? Do you think 4 years down the road, I'm going to go, hey, now I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm
Without
with
no
you.
contact.
Yeah. I'm going to be like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
You fucking came at me and cut me out of my fucking family because of who I voted for without even listening to why, right? Mm-hmm. Hate breeds hate. It gets us nowhere. We need to be able to have more of these conversations, more of these forums where we can talk through things and realize we have way more things in common. I bet when you invited both of us on, you thought we were going to disagree way more than you did.
Yes.
But what ends up happening is when you can talk about things rationally, you go, I see it that way. I understand, because most of us are not on these extreme spectrums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
80% of us are right here in the middle going, we just want common sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the 10% on each side that fuck everything up.
Yeah.
And we need to all start to realize that if we came together, we are way better, way stronger, and guess what? We're way more aligned than people ever want to admit. But I've always said there's a reason why they let these 10% be the loudest, because they like the chaos. They like the friction. They like us fighting, because then we're not asking the questions that we started this conversation with, which is, why is Nancy Pelosi worth $120 billion?
Yeah.
Why is Dan Crenshaw worth $60 million? We don't ask those questions because we're all distracted by the bullshit. And then they can play their little inside game on us, because we're all fighting like ants in a jar that were shook up, but we're not ever asking who shook the fucking jar. Mm-hmm. And that's the question we should be asking.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I'll also say, it's funny you bring that up, because, you know, like I've been incarcerated a few times, and there's politics in California prison, right? Like,
for sure. Like,
you know, whites and Mexicans are together, and then black and brothers and others, they call them, are together. And when you start like listening to like OGs that are in there that have been there way too long and done too much time, and they're just like it actually found out that it's actually the guards who made politics.
Yep.
They had no problem with each other, but then they're like, hey, you know, they don't like you, X, Y, and Z. And what it did is it separated the prisoners, because there's way more of them, right? So it separated them. So now they're busy fighting each other instead of looking at, and obviously they shouldn't attack the guards, but I'm just saying, like, that is the exact same essential analogy. One thing I'll say is that people on the left believe, and like in a way I believe that Donald Trump is so much an opportunist that he stokes racism. Like he'll cozy up with racists.
Do you think he's racist though?
I think he is racist.
See, I don't. I understand what you're saying about the stoking thing, right? Because he likes to pimp, right? But I don't think he's actually racist.
Yeah.
Just like I don't think Elon Trump is a Nazi.
Yeah. Like, so again, yeah. Is it, you know, I heard Elon, like if someone's a Nazi straight up, like Kanye, right?
Kanye, I understand.
Yeah. He'll say
I understand.
He says he's a Nazi. So again, I saw Elon, and he's like, hey, that wasn't that, right? So he said it wasn't.
He's autistic, Asperger's. He's a crazy dude. Like that's what that was.
That's what happened.
And of course,
that was Asperger's talking.
The media ran with that. But what I'm saying is, like, perfect example, even before this term, right? Obviously, like if we're all here, and then we go down, it's downtown, and we're gonna go grab a sandwich, and you know, let's say I see some Asian people walking by, and I scream out, "Hey, go back to where you came from!" Like, bro, that's racism.
100%.
Okay, so
100%.
Donald Trump did that with 4 congresswomen, right? 4 women that were in Congress.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, 3 of them are born here. And one of them was here since she was 8 years old. Why did he do that though? Because the way he assumed they weren't so that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, that's racist. Has he employed black people X, Y, and Z? Yes, he's done that. But you have to look at the totality of what someone does, right? When he says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, right? Like those are racist statements. Like, whether you fully believe he's racist or not, like, those are racist statements.
Can I tell you the way? So, like, just it's perception, right? Can I tell you what I hear when I hear those things? Okay. When the context of those 4 people, he said, go back to your country. It's because those 4 people, I don't think it was based on racism. I think it was based on an anti-American sentiment. I think those 4 people.
But they're from here though.
Yeah, but they were constantly the ones going, America is bad, America is the devil, teaching kids that America in school is the demon, right? Like, that's what he's talking to. Hey, if that's your position, you shouldn't be a congressman in the United States of America. If you don't believe this is the best country on earth, if you're not here to make it better, go back to wherever you're going. Now, to say it that way is the stoking, right? Because they're from here. So to say go back, but I don't think he's doing it as a racist. I think he's doing it to say, if you're going to be so anti-American and so against America on everything, guess what? Then don't fucking be here. Is it communicated poorly always by Donald Trump? Yes, normally. And so it comes across the wrong way. But talking about the immigrant, what was the exact quote you said?
Immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country.
So if you open up a border and you allow people from all different walks of life all around the world, and you're not vetting people, you have what you have in the United Kingdom, where you have a society that starts to fail because there is no assimilation. No one ever comes together. And so I think that when you look at it from that point of view, if you just have unorganized, chaotic immigration and people coming here that never really want to be American and they don't want to assimilate into the United States of America, I agree with that statement. But how you say it in the context of saying it is everything.
Poisoning the blood, right? And then again, like, Hitler said the same thing about the Jews.
But that's what I mean by how he goes about it is the problem. But I don't think that he is a true Hitler racist, wants to wipe out all the other races. I don't believe that.
I don't believe so either. I believe he's an opportunist though. And hate crimes were way up during his administration. And they've actually signed an executive order to remove hate crimes. So there's going to be no such thing as a hate crime anymore.
Which I disagree with.
Right?
And I think that stoking the fire is the problem, but I don't think he's a racist. But I think that how he goes about it is problematic for sure.
I think he has racist tendencies, right? I think that, again, and I can say, I've met like older, like again, I'm half Mexican, all my Mexican family's here, and I have some like older tias that like, yeah, they're kind of racist. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they're just come from a different generation. For sure. And I'm like, yeah, like, you like they're just like, oh, but not you, mijo. Because like, okay, I'm black, but they're like, oh, not you, just the other one. Right? Like, so I just
like, no, still racist.
Yeah. And that's what I feel. And that's the biggest thing. And again, I absolutely agree with you. You shouldn't cut people off because then we can't have these conversations. For sure. Right? My wife, she has a really good friend. Jenny has a really good friend that same thing. She's like, I don't associate. And then my wife's like, well, how can they ever see your side or like have a conversation with you? Exactly. Right. So I don't think you should cut them off, but I feel like that big friction is because like I've seen him say things and they're like, dude, that's like racist.
But you can disagree with the government and the people running the government and not fight the people, right? Just like you can disagree with the Israeli government in the way that the Israeli government, but not be against the Jewish people, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same separation. You can be against what Donald Trump says and stands for, but also still be friends with someone who voted for him.
100%.
Because you have to be able to have enough empathy and enough understanding to be able to get to the reasons why. Like after we just sat here, we didn't meet each other before today. No. Right? We met each other today. And I will walk away from this going, I have respect for you. I'd like to hang out with you. I'd be friends with you, even if you voted for someone that I didn't vote for. And I would hope you'd feel the same about me as a human being, even though I voted for Donald Trump in this last election because I thought that was the right move and still would say that I think that was the right move with where we were at as a country. But we should still be able to be friends. we should still be able to have respect for each other. We should still be able to break bread. Our kids should be able to be friends. Like that's the United States of America. That's what it used to be. And that's what I hope it gets back to.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well said.
Thank you for being here, guys.
Thank you for having us.
It was a pleasure. If you guys enjoy the show and would like to subscribe, that would be a great way for you to support us. And also, if you'd like to see part 2, subscribe, share it, and comment. Thank you.